This is the story of the dreams. Let us be off. Away we go. There was once a young man, the son of a poor widow. He had a sweetheart who was the daughter of a very wealthy man indeed. Now, he and his sweetheart had known each other since they were children, and now that they were grown, they wished to be married. So, one day, the youth gathered up his courage and went to his sweetheart's father and said, "I should very much like to marry your daughter." "What? You marry my daughter?" said the rich man, and he dealt the youth a blow between the eyes, knocking him quite to the ground. "Very well, you may marry my daughter once you've gone to the ends of the earth and returned." Well, the youth had never heard such a bizarre instruction before. But he said, "The ends of the earth? Very well." For such was his love for his sweetheart. Now the youth's mother did not wish him to go. "The ends of the earth? Who knows how to get there?" she said. But his mind could not be swayed. So his mother packed all the food they had in their larder into a large sack. "Take this with you," she said. "It will nourish you on your journey." "Thank you, mother," said the youth. He gave her a hug and was on his way. He walked and walked and walked, stopping every now and then to eat a little bit of food. He did not wish to stay at anyone's house, but after many days the food had run out, and he had no choice. The youth begged lodging and a little bit to eat at the home of a merchant. The merchant welcomed him kindly in. "Tell me," said the merchant, "where are you going?" I am going to the ends of the earth so that I may marry my sweetheart," said the youth. "Well, well," said the merchant, "I've heard tell that anyone who gets to the end of the earth may have a question answered. So, you must ask a question for me." "I will," said the youth. "What's your question?" "You see," said the merchant, "I have 3 fine daughters, each lovely and sweet, and each gifted with a very fine dowry. But no suitors come to call. Please find out why not." "I shall do my best," said the young man. The next morning, the merchant filled his sack with food and sent him on his way. He walked and walked and walked, but after many more days, the sack was once again empty. There was nothing else to do but beg for shelter and a little bit of food. He came to the house of a farmer, and the farmer took him in. "Where are you going?" asked the farmer. "To the ends of the earth," said the youth, "so that I may marry my sweetheart." Very well," said the farmer. "But when you get to the ends of the earth, you must ask a question for me." "What is your question?" said the youth. "In my garden," said the farmer, "there is a tree, a wondrous tree. Half its leaves are red, and half its leaves are white. Yet the tree never bears any fruit. Please find out what I must do to make the tree bear fruit." "I'll try," said the youth. The next morning, the farmer filled his sack with food and sent him on his way. The youth walked and walked and walked. Finally, his sack was empty again. By this time, he had come to a great castle. In the castle lived a king. The king welcomed him in, but seemed to the youth to have a deep sadness behind his eyes. "When you get to the ends of the earth," said the king, "please ask them what has become of my dear daughter. She was stolen away 7 years ago, and I have not heard any news of her since. Won't you ask for me? Oh, won't you?" "I certainly will," said the youth. The next morning, the king filled his sack up with food and sent him kindly on his way. The young man walked and walked and walked. After quite some time, he found himself in the midst of a deep, dark forest. There, in a clearing in the forest, stood a sentry box, and in the box was an old man standing guard. "Good day to you, fine youth," said the old man. "Good day, old grandfather," said he. "I am going to the ends of the earth. Do you know whether I've much farther?" "Not at all," said the old man. "If you come out of these woods, you'll find yourself at the Red Sea, and when you get across that, you'll be at the ends of the earth. But take care, for it's said that no one ever returns from the ends of the earth." "Well, I mean to return," said the young man, "for I must go home again and marry my sweetheart." "Perhaps you shall," said the old guard. "But when you get there, you must ask a question for me." "What is your question?" said the youth. "I've been standing guard in this sentry box for 300 years, said the old man. "Please tell me what I must do to get some rest." "I will," said the youth, and he went on his way. It wasn't long before he had come out of the woods, and there it was before him, the Red Sea. Now there on the shore was a boat, and next to the boat stood an old woman. This old woman had a pair of oars, and she smiled at the youth and beckoned him into her boat. She began to row. She rowed and rowed and rowed. She rowed so far that soon they were out in the center of the sea. "Tell me something," said the old hag. "Why do you want to go to the ends of the earth?" "Well, I wish to marry my sweetheart," said the youth, "and this is the only way." "But don't you know," said the old hag, "at the ends of the earth lives a terrible troll. He will eat you alive if he knows you are there." "Well, I'll just have to hide myself," said the youth. "Very well," said the old woman. "But if you get the chance to ask a question, you must ask a question for me." "What question would you have me ask?" said the young man. "I've been rowing people back and forth in this boat for 700 years, said the old woman. "Tell me what I must do to finally get out of here." The young man agreed. Now it took quite a long time, but eventually the boat bumped up on the far shore. The youth stepped out, and he found himself in a strange wasteland. Off in the distance, he spied something. He went closer and closer and closer, and found himself standing before an enormous fortress. This was the fortress at the ends of the earth. He went right up to the front door and knocked on it. The door was opened by a beautiful young woman. She was a princess who smiled kindly at the youth when she saw him. "What are you doing here, good youth? Don't you know that you're likely to be eaten alive by the troll?" she asked. "Perhaps," he said, "but I must come here to the end of the earth if I wish to marry my sweetheart back home," said the youth. "And I promised good people along the way that I would ask questions for them." He told the princess his questions, And when he came to the question from the king with the missing daughter, the princess burst into tears. "I am that king's daughter," she said. "I was stolen away by the troll 7 years ago. Come in, come in. I will help you if I may, but the troll cannot know you are here. Listen, I will turn you into a carding comb and put you up by the headboard of our bed. And when I say, 'Listen, comb,' listen carefully to what is being said." The young man nodded, and the princess turned him into a carding comb and put him up on a little shelf over the headboard of the bed. That evening, the door of the fortress swung open, and in swaggered the troll. Chuckled the troll. "I smell mortal blood." "Oh, stuff and nonsense," said the princess. "You see, a raven flew by and dropped a bone down the chimney. Perhaps that is what has put the scent in your nose." Perhaps, said the troll. Well, they ate together and made merry, and then they went to bed. Now the princess commenced snoring. She snored and snored and snored so loudly that eventually the troll shook her awake. "Woman, how you snore!" said the troll. "Please pardon me," said the princess. "I was having a very strange dream." "What sort of dream?" asked the troll. "Well, I dreamed that a merchant who lives far away from here has 3 fine daughters, but they never had any sweethearts." "I know the merchant of whom you speak," said the troll, "and I know how his daughters may get sweethearts, but I shan't tell him. If he would only leave half the doors in his house ajar and shut the other half of them tight, they'd have suitors aplenty." "Listen, comb," said the princess. "Why do you say that?" asked the troll. "Oh, no reason," said the princess. "It was just something from my dream." "Very well," said the troll. They both lay down again, and after a while the princess snored loud and loud and louder until the troll angrily shook her awake. "Once again you snore and disturb my slumber," said the troll. "I do beg your pardon," said the princess. "I was having another dream." "Another one?" said the troll. "Yes. In this dream, a farmer has a tree. Half of the tree's leaves are red, and half of the tree's leaves are white, yet the tree never bears any fruit." "Ha!" chuckled the troll. "I know how his tree might bear fruit, but I shan't tell him. You see, he must get 8 men to dig, 4 on one side of the tree and 4 on the other side. If they keep digging, they'll dig up a barrel of gold and a barrel of silver. And once those are removed from the ground, the tree will bear fruit aplenty." "Listen, comb," said the princess. "Why do you say that?" asked the troll. "No reason," said the princess. "It was something from my dream." The two of them lay down again. After a while, the princess began to snore and snore and snore. The troll shook her again. "I can't sleep a wink with all this racket," said the troll. "I am so sorry," said the princess. "I was having another dream." "What was it this time?" asked the troll. "You see, I dreamed that There was a king who lives all alone in a castle, for his daughter was stolen away from him 7 years ago."
"That was you,"
said the troll, and he looked at her with such burning, bubbling, boiling wrath that the princess thought he was likely to eat her on the spot. She said nothing else. They lay down again and eventually drifted off to sleep. But the princess snored and snored and snored so greatly that the troll finally had to shake her awake.
"More snoring?"
asked the troll. "More dreaming," said the princess.
"What now?"
asked the troll. "Well, you see, I dreamt that in the middle of a wood there stands an old man in a sentry box. How might he be relieved of his guard?"
"I know how he may be relieved, but I shan't tell him," said the troll. "He has only to wait until he hears me coming. The air will rattle and the ground will rumble. And if the old fool says, 'Now then, old fiend, old devil, who flies and flutters through the air, come and relieve me of my guard,' then I shall have to stand guard in his place forevermore."
"I see," said the princess. "Listen, comb."
"Why do you say that?"
asked the troll. Oh, nothing. It was just something from my dream," said the princess.
"Very well,"
said the troll, and the two of them put their heads down on the pillows once more. Quite a while went by, but the princess soon began to snore louder than ever. The troll clutched his head.
"You are driving me to distraction with your infernal snoring,"
said the troll. He shook the princess roughly.
"What is it this time?"
"Oh, just another dream," said the princess. "I dreamed that the old hag who stands in the boat on the Red Sea wishes to be relieved of her duty."
"I know how she may be relieved, but I won't be telling her. Of that you may be sure," said the troll. "Once she has wrung a man's neck and drunk 3 drops of his blood, then she may go wherever she likes."
"Listen, comb," said the princess.
"Why do you say that?"
asked the troll. "No reason," said the princess. "It was something from my dream."
"Well, see that you don't disturb me again,"
growled the troll, and the two of them slept all the night through. Now, the next morning, they awoke, and the troll was on his way. The princess turned the youth back into his human form. "Did you hear everything that was said?" she asked. The young man nodded. "Very well," she said. "I must make ready before I depart with you, for I mean to stay here no longer. You will go ahead and wait for me by the seashore." Having said this, she turned the youth into a little wheel and rolled him out the door. He rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled down to the shore. After she had made all her preparations, the princess hastened down to the shore and picked up the wheel and turned him back into the young man. Now, the two of them climbed into the boat where the old crone stood waiting. She rowed and rowed and rowed with them across the Red Sea. As they were going, she asked,
"Did you find out anything about how I may be relieved of my post?"
"I may have heard something," said the youth. "I'll tell you once we get ashore."
"Very well,"
said she. When they had gotten up on shore, they walked a good distance away before the youth called back, "When you have wrung a man's neck and drunk 3 drops of his blood, then you may go where you like."
"Why didn't you tell me that earlier?" said the hag, "for then I might have managed it."
Well, the youth and the princess hurried on through the forest, and when they came to the sentry box, there stood the old man. They told him everything, and then they were on their way. Not a moment too soon, for the troll had just discovered the princess's absence. Great and terrible indeed was his fury. He rose into the air and flew across the Red Sea like a billowing cloud of smoke. The guard felt the ground rumbling and heard the air trembling with the troll's approach. But he remembered the words that had been taught to him. "Now then, old fiend, old devil, who flies and flutters through the air," said the old man, "come and relieve me of my burden." And the troll was bound by these words of power to the guard box. The old man slipped away, and the troll found himself unable to leave his post, and there he remained forever. The youth and the princess hurried on until they came to the castle. They knocked at the door. The king opened the door, and the princess said, "Father, don't you recognize me?" "Daughter, can it really be you?" said the king. "No, I can't believe it. You are playing some cruel joke upon me." "Father, do you remember I had a little scar upon my hand?" said the princess. She held up her hand and showed him the scar. The king beamed with joy. He hugged and kissed his daughter and began to weep with happiness. He turned to the youth and hugged him as well. "Thank you for everything you have done," said the king. And he gave the young man a fine carriage with richly dressed horses. Now, the youth traveled back the way he had come, and he traveled in great style and luxury. When he came to the home of the farmer, he stepped out of the carriage and knocked at the door and told the farmer everything that he had heard. The farmer got 8 men from a nearby town, 4 on one side of his tree and 4 on the other. They began to dig. They dug and they dug and they dug. Finally, they unearthed the barrels, one huge barrel full of gold and another one full of silver. Well, the farmer was so happy that he insisted upon sharing his newfound fortune with the young man. He gave him half the gold and half the silver to bring with him in his carriage. The youth smiled and thanked him and went on. When he came to the home of the merchant, he told the merchant everything he had learned about leaving half the doors ajar and shutting the other half. The merchant said, thank you, kind young man. And now I must give you something as a reward." "No need," said the youth, "for I am rich enough." He got back into his carriage, and away he went, back to the little village of his birth. He stepped out of the carriage and knocked at the door of his mother's cottage. His mother opened the door and began to cry, for it had been so long since she had seen her beloved son. Now, the next morning, the youth climbed into the carriage and rode immediately to the home of his sweetheart. Well, the carriage pulled up to the door. His sweetheart and her father were astonished to see such a fine carriage, and to their great surprise, the door of the carriage opened, and out stepped the young man. "It's you," said the father. "Indeed it is," said the youth. "What are you doing here?" said the rich man. "Well, you told me to go to the ends of the earth, and so I have. And now I'm back, for my sweetheart and I wish to be married." "Well," said her father, "I see no reason to stand in the way of such a fine union." So, the youth and his sweetheart were married without delay. They spent many happy years together in wealth and contentment, all thanks to the Troll's answers to the dream.